For the final section of this review, we are to simplify these radicals. We had a couple different ways to do this, and we'll talk through both of them. Before we do, I'm just going to list our perfect squares, which are often helpful. 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, 5 squared is 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, and 100. And those obviously keep going. So for 47, it's the square root of 48. 48 is a smaller number, so what we can do is we can think, do any of these perfect squares go into 48? Now 4 does, so that's good, but even higher, and we talked about this before, 16 goes into 48. So what we can do is we can split this up into the square root of 16, and 48 divided by 16 is 3, so times the square root of 3. So the square root of 16 times the square root of 3, and then we simplify the square root of 16. That's just 4 times the square root of 3. So if it's a smaller number and we notice that one of these perfect squares go into it, we can split it into 2 parts. Now we get to 49, and that's not a smaller number, 1,152. So what we're going to do is we're going to factor this. Pretty sure 4 goes into this. So you could use a calculator. I don't have mine with me, so I'm just going to do some long division here. This is 2, 8, 35. 4 goes into that 8 times 32. So we got 288. 288. Okay, well, 4 is 2 times 2. 288, that's actually 2 times 144. And we're pretty familiar with 144. That's 12 times 12. Just keep working our way down. This is 4 times 3. 4 times 3. And 2 times 2. 2 times 2. Well, so when there's so many of these, sure you have all of your primes here. So 2, 2, 2. 2, 2, 3. 2, 2, 3. So this turns out to be the square root of 2 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2 to the 7th times 3 squared. And what we do is we split this into 2 roots, and we do our perfect squares on the right and our leftovers on the left. Well, we definitely have a 2 squared, but if we have a 2 squared, there's still 5 left, so there's another 2 squared. That's 4. There's another 2 squared. So that's really 2 to the 6th. We have 6 2's there. And then we have 1 leftover, so we put that leftover over here. And then 3 squared, that's a perfect square. And now what we do, the square root of 2 squared is 2 times the square root of 2 squared is 2. The square root of 2 squared is 2, and the square root of 3 squared is 3. So we simplify each of those, still have our leftover, our square root of 2, and then we just multiply. This is 8 times 3 is 24 times the square root of 2. And so that's how you do those. 50 and 52 would be similar to that. However, 12, we probably could do that a little easier. Let's come down to these few where we have fractions. So when we have fractions, there's a few things we can do here. First, you can always try to simplify within a radical, or like simplify the 12 and the 15 since they're both in radicals, and they both do reduce. 3 goes into those, 3 goes into that 4 times, and 3 goes into this 5 times. So there's a few different ways to simplify this one. Well, up here in the top, the square root of 4 is just 2. So right now we're at 6 over the square root of 5. However, that's not simplified still because we're not allowed to have a square root in the denominator. What we learned was we can multiply both top and bottom by the square root of 5. And that will give us 6 times the square root of 5 on top. And we learned that a square root times itself is just the number that's on the inside. Just as a reminder, we cannot reduce the 5 and the 5 because in the top the 5 is in a radical, in the bottom it's not, so we can't simplify any further. So this would be our answer. Let's come over to 54. We'll do this one. Square root of 25 is just 5. And then we have 3 root 15. 15 doesn't simplify by itself. It doesn't have any perfect squares in it. So what we do is multiply by the square root of 15 over the square root of 15. Now that will give us 5 times the square root of 15 over 3 times, and remember if we multiply these two together, we just get a 15. Well, this is 5 times the square root of 15 over 45. However, here the 5 and the 45 can simplify because neither of them are in the radical, and so 5 goes into both of those. 5 goes into this once, and 5 goes into this 9 times, and so we end up with the square root of 15 over 9. So make sure you keep working through this quiz review to help you prepare for your quiz.